Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jamie here. It's been a while since you saw my face or indeed a video from me. Um, Not really feeling the YouTube. It's full of politics behind the scenes and a lot of backstabbing in the community. But that's not what this video is about. This video is entitled "In Defense of Games Workshop and Forge World." Now, Games Workshop and Forge World are companies that everyone has probably heard of. And the guys who seem to be the most vocal about these companies are actually the guys who are insulting them all the time. Now, some of that is deserved. Don't get me wrong, there's some things they do which I don't agree with. However, I feel that a lot of people miss out on a lot of important points. And it seems like the community has been divided into two groups. We have the fanboys, who believe Forge World and Games Workshop can't do no wrong. And we have the naysayers who are constantly on their case despite not being into their product, which is weird to me to spend a lot of time speaking about stuff that apparently you don't like. Now, this is really simplistic. I don't think it's true at all. There can't just be two black and white camps. There's got to be something in the middle, and that is probably where I am. I like their product, I play their games, I read their books, but I do believe they can do wrong. But this video is basically just to play devil's advocate and speak about some of the finer points which a lot of people miss when talking about Forge World and Games Workshop. Now, a lot of people compare the cost of Games Workshop figures to the figures from competitors. I'm not going to name any companies. I'm not about slagging off companies. But let's say, for example, we look at a retailer with a staff of 60 people whose demand is mostly within the United Kingdom. They would probably only have one shop maximum of their own. A lot of their staff will work at that shop because the warehouse will be attached, so they're paying for one premises. Now, Games Workshop, I found a document from a few years ago, has over 300 stores worldwide. Now, each one of those stores will have a cost. They will have the cost of staff. Let's assume they only have one staff each because of the one-man store. That's still 300 staff, which is probably more than the whole of one company. But it is going to be more than 300 staff because some stores, Birmingham for example, my local store, will have 4 or 5 staff. Now, those stores also have the cost of heating, the rent on the actual premises, the cost of stocking miniatures there via transportation, the cost of the in-store events, which, okay, they might not give the best of prizes, but they're still running events. They're still providing a place for people to play. They're providing boards, which they have paid for. Yes, so heavily subsidised because it's their own company, but still, very few other companies do that. Now, they will also have the cost of the internet within the store because there's the little computer point. So these stores are very expensive, and that cost is reflected in the product. Now, whatever your opinion is, you can't hide the fact that that's going to boost the price of a product. And Games Workshop, everything is done in-house, meaning they custom miniatures, they do the artwork, everything. Now, speaking from a point of view where my girlfriend is an artist, she does some freelance artist work. And she spoke to one of the lads at Forge World a couple of years ago at Games Day, who offered some great advice to her, and also said a bit about his own line of work. She does her artwork on a £1,500 Cintiq. She also gets paid less than minimum wage because she always goes over her time limit. Not late, but in the sense of she says, I'm going to spend 10 hours on this, and she spends 12 because she just loves what she does. And her software costs £18 a month. Now, the majority of small companies in the UK and abroad will use freelance artists and sculptors such as my girlfriend. Now, they're not paying for the Cintiq or the software she's using. They're just paying for her time. And often, as I said, they get more for their money than what they're paying for. Whereas if we look at Games Workshop and Forge World, the guy she spoke to at Forge World, I believe his name was Dimitri, something like that. He was a really nice guy, did some great artwork in the Massacre book. He was using the Cintiq model above hers, which cost £3,000. Now obviously Games Workshop will get a discount on them, but we can still say that, you know, they're supplying a £3,000 machine, probably at a cost of £1,500 to themselves, to the artist. He's also working a 9 till 5, which means he's getting paid for what he does. He gets paid from the morning to the afternoon. He's got a regular wage provided for by Forge World and Games Workshop, which to me is a service to artists out there. Now, he'll also have his software paid for him and have a wider choice of software than freelance artists, because freelance artists, they obviously have to prioritise costs against how often they're going to use a program. I'm not sure how many artists they actually have at Forge World and Games Workshop. I went to the Forge World Open Day and there was 6 artists in a room working on Cintiqs. So providing work for 6 guys full time so that they don't have to go out there and look for freelance work, I think that's not only a moral thing to do, but it's also something that you've got to factor into the cost again. How many pieces of artwork are given away just for free by Games Workshop and Forge World via their newsletters, their website, their bulletins, etc., their YouTube videos? Now they're pieces of artwork that other companies might only have one rulebook, or maybe a rulebook and a fluff book and expansion, 3 or 4 books, which they're going to charge for, and they've paid a freelance artist. Now I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. That is a good business model. That is what people in small business have to do, and for the freelance artists, once they get established, it can often be very beneficial to them in the sense that they might earn more than that guy on a 9 to 5 because they can work for a wider array of people. It's the same with sculptors. They use a program called ZBrush a lot. I know that Games Workshop uses more 3D sculptors than Forge World, but a lot of companies hire freelance sculptors. And again, I'm lucky enough to have friends who are freelance sculptors. Now, they will charge a price that they think is fair, whereas the guy who works at Forge World or Games Workshop will get an hourly rate, and there's pros and cons to both. But the fact that Forge World and Games Workshop have these artists, these sculptors, also writers for their stories on a 9 to 5, and they give a lot of that stuff out for free via pictures, newsletters, etc. I think that's something that's got to definitely be a point when you make when talking about the cost of Games Workshop and Forge World. And to ignore that, you're given a fair appraisal. Now, we've talked about the cost of a shop, we've talked about the cost of staff, you know, employing these guys on a 9 to 5, which a lot of companies out there don't do. But we've also got to talk about investing in new technology. Like them or hate them, they are leading, they are the driving force behind new technologies. They embrace new stuff. A lot of companies actually base what they're working on off Games Workshop and Forge World, in the sense of, oh wow, they're investing in this sort of plastic moulding, let's see how good it is. And their release schedule, a lot of people complain about that they release too much. It's too much for me to afford. You don't have to buy everything. There's no hobby out there where you have to buy everything. But those constant releases, they cost a lot of money, and you don't necessarily get the revenue back immediately. So you might pay, I don't know, 10 grand for a new plastic tooling for one of your moulds. Now that might last forever, but if you don't make the 10 grand back for 3 months and you're planning on releasing another kit next month, that is going to be reflected in your price. Now that also brings me to resin moulds, which is more the case obviously with Forge World. Now I've spoken to lads in the industry, and there's an argument between which is better, resin or plastic, in the sense of plastic is, once you've paid for the mould, it's cheaper in the long run, because resin moulds deteriorate. Now the resin casting process is also very labour intensive. A plastic mould, you can go, blah 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 blah, I want 10 of these, and then come back later and there's 10, whereas the resin moulds, you have to keep an eye on them physically. Now for a small company, they might only have to employ 1 resin caster and 1 guy making resin moulds. But a company in high demand such as Forge World, that's not going to cut it, and they're going to be required to you know, have a bigger staff to make sure that demand is met, and these molds that are deteriorating, they're going to need replacing a lot faster than in a company that only sends out 10 of a model a week as opposed to 10 a day. Now the final point I wanted to discuss is customer service. Games Workshop and Forge World employ a massive customer service team. Now some smaller companies, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this is how companies grow, when you phone them up, you might get the actual manager, the actual owner of the company, a secretary, or you might get a guy who spends 5 days a week in the warehouse and 1 day a week on the phones. Now, Games Workshop and Forge World have a dedicated team for customer service, and that, of course, costs money. That is going to be in the cost of the product, because those guys are working a 9 to 5 wage. Now, they're not actually producing any profit themselves because they're customer service, so their money for their wages, their phones, their place of employment, that's got to come from somewhere. And I've had trouble with Forge World stuff. Like I said, not a fanboy. I've had the wrong order. I've had miscast parts. I phoned them up. I've received the replacement part in a couple of days. Some smaller companies, because of their labour situation, there's nothing wrong with this. Again, I support smaller companies, as you know. I love a lot of smaller companies out there. I hold them close to my heart. But you might be waiting a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because they are in the situation where they can employ people to do that. But to be in that situation, Games Workshop has had to charge higher prices. So let's talk about what you are getting for your money. With Forge World, yes, you might be spending £35 for a squad of 5 guys. However, you're getting an artist who's being paid a 9 to 5 wage, who designed that work as a sculptor. You're getting an artist who did some artwork for that range on a 9 to 5. You're getting a place where you can go to and buy that miniature, because you can order Forge World into your stores and then not have to pay postage. But Games Workshop will still, of course, be paying postage to the store. Just because you're not paying it doesn't mean someone else isn't. You're getting a customer service rep on the other side of the phone who you can phone up if there's an issue. They also, just before I leave, they also employ in-house painters. So that really nice one that you saw on the website is done by someone getting a 9 to 5 wage, which again has pros and cons against the freelance artists out there. But all that stuff is going to be reflected in the cost. So when I see people on the internet in this community talking about the cost of a Forge World figure compared to a competitor, but ignoring all these factors, I think it's very simplistic. A guy who owns one shop as opposed to 300 being expected to charge the same, he's got no customer service team, he's done everything freelance, of course he can do it for cheaper. Now those companies are going to grow, and I look forward to that. I look forward to there being some competition out there for Games Workshop and Forge World, because I think competition is a massive driving force for positive change. I'm not a fanboy. I've had issues with Forge World. My channel, it's not sponsored by anyone. I'm 100% honest. Just want to get that out there. I don't make a lot of videos anymore. I find that within this community, you've got a lot of clicks, you've got a lot of guys being sponsored by blah blah and blah blah, and you've got a lot of dishonesty. You've got a lot of guys out there out for free stuff. Now, Forge World and Games Workshop might be a faceless company, as some people call it, but I've gone to Forge World events, I've spoken to the artists, I've had the pleasure of speaking to these guys, and they don't pretend to be something that they're not. They're not a company out there saying, oh, we're in it for the gamer. They're a company that are out there to make money. But the way they do it, you do get, in my opinion, a lot for your money, because you're getting guys, like I said, on the other side of the phone, full-time artists, full-time sculptors, and you know the game's not going to disappear. My dog's chiming in. He mustn't like Forge World. Now, it just seems to me that they get a lot of undue hate because they're a big company. And for people who are representing other companies to do such a thing is, to me, unprofessional. To slag off a competitor, it's not on. Now, I've bought a lot of products in the past. I'm not going to mention them here, from other companies that haven't been up to scratch. But I didn't feel the need to make a YouTube video. or diss that company down, because I sincerely hope that that company, in 5 years' time, I can go back and order and it's fine. Because they're still growing, and you know, we make allowances for that. But why don't we make allowances for the successful companies that are spending a lot more money? So that's the end of this video. Sorry you've had to see my ugly mug. I'll probably put some pictures over this. You might not see a video from me for a while. I'm thinking about starting a new YouTube channel, starting everything fresh and just doing showcases and that. Big up everyone who's watched this, and big up my mates who are producing great videos. I'm watching them all the time, even if I'm not commenting. You're all talented guys, and I hope you all have a great time. And again, I'm not a Forge World fanboy, but if you want to like or dislike this, just pop it below. It's not the real world, let's be honest. I'll see you guys later.